Shalom, Israel. Remember, remember what our Father has told us. Grab a book, open it up, turn the pages, read so you can remember. Our Father has given us things in His Spirit so we can be like Him. So we need to remember. The first thing that we're going to look at, Israel, is Genesis chapter 9, verses 8 through 16. And God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that you go out of the ark to every beast of the earth, and I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do not set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token, a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you, and every living creature of all flesh. And the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud. And I will look upon it, and I may remember the everlasting covenant between Ahayah and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. So we started off saying that we need to remember right here the Most High, when he destroyed the world and left us a remnant of our forefathers to carry on with Noah, Japheth, Shem, Ham. They replenished the earth. But from that time until this time here, that anytime we look upon a rainbow, that is not us needing to remember, but that's the Father Himself remembering the covenant, a perpetual covenant, an everlasting covenant that He made with us, not to destroy us by water. So we have to understand that remembrance is something that was called upon us to do. And the reason why it was called upon us to do it, because the Most High, Ahayah Sharahayah, as well as His son Yeshaya, they remember the covenant as well. So for us to be in the likeness of our Father, and like the likeness of the Son, and for us to be one mind, we will remember too. But with that being said, we're going to go into more scriptures to understand what it means for us to remember and how important it is for us to remember. Now we're going to look at Deuteronomy chapter 8. And here, we talk to Christians, you talk to those that are lost, you talk to those false prophets. This is when they'll tell you don't keep the Sabbath day. They'll tell you not to keep the Most High's commandments. That you don't have to remember the things that He told you to remember. But here we're going to go to the Word. And for all those things we need to get, let's get some understanding. So Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 1. All the commandments which I command thee this day shall ye observe to do, that ye may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers, and that thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no. So he's telling us here that we will remember, or need to remember, and that we were in the desert or the wilderness for 40 years. And he did that to let us, or him to know, whether we will keep his commandments or not. As you will say, like a test. But we're going to skip down to Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10. And it reads, when thou hast eaten and art full, and thou shalt bless the Lord thy God for thy good land which he hath given thee. Beware that thou forget not the Lord thy God, and not keeping his commandments, and his judgments, and his statutes, which I command thee this day. So he tells us, don't forget his commandments, which he commanded us this day. So what are some of the commandments that we, our brothers and sisters, should not forget, that he gave us, that we should keep and understand? So for that, we're going to go to Exodus chapter 20. And when we look at the book of Exodus chapter 20, we're looking at Mount Sinai, and all the tribes and all the strangers of Israel were there. And the shofar sounded, and it blast, and they gathered upon by Mount Sinai, scared and frightened, never heard or seen anything like that before. And the Most High was there, and he dwelt with us and among us, and he traveled with us during the day, and he was a fire for us at night. And anytime we see that cloud, because they say he was a cloud by day, we understand that in the other parts of the word, we understand that to be like a ship or a spaceship. Because other times they describe a great cloud, and they're always talking about a ship. But we're going to look at the word here in Exodus 20. Because when we're in the wilderness, he told us to remember. And he said that he put us there to see if we would keep our commandments, or keep his commandments or not. And some of us got to understand right now we're being tried in the fire. But the book of Exodus chapter 20 verse 8, and it reads, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath day of the Lord thy God. In thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger, that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So that was Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11. And right there, we see that the Most High told us to remember something. He told us to remember the Sabbath day. He told us to keep it holy. Kodesh, set apart. So if we remember that Sabbath day and we keep it holy, that's something that the Most High does as well. The same way that we read in the beginning, where he kept his covenant with all of the land, with all the world, with every animal that's on the world right now. He kept his covenant by saying that he would not destroy us by water, and that he remembered it. the action that went place. We see it in Deuteronomy 8, where he told us that we were put in the wilderness so we could remember, that we would prove out, that we would keep his word, that we would keep his commandments. So here we are, being told by the Most High to remember the Sabbath day. And wherever you go in this land, if you're not around the brothers and sisters of Israel, they'll tell you that you don't have to remember the Sabbath. But he told us that he will remember. But we'll see some more stuff when we're talking about remembering, to open the book up, to turn the pages so you can see what the word is saying, that you can listen what the Ruach is saying, that you can hear what the Spirit should be saying to you this day, on this Sabbath day. But to get more understanding, we're going to go to Exodus chapter 31, verse 12. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily, my Sabbath ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord that doth sanctify you. Ye shall keep the Sabbath thereof, for it is holy unto you. Every one that defileth shall surely be put to death. For as doth any work therein, that shall be cut off from among his people. 6 days may work be done, but the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever do any work in the Sabbath day, he shall be surely put to death. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of the communion with him upon the Mount Sinai, 2 tablets of testimony, 2 tables of stone, written with the very finger of God, written with the very finger of I am that I am. Ahayah, Ashar, Ahayah. So here we see that this Sabbath day is a perpetual covenant. We see in Exodus 20 that he tells you to remember this perpetual covenant, the same way that he said that he will remember his covenant for all generations. Here that this tells you this is for all generations. The same wording is in the same places, perpetual. I mean, going on and on and on and on. But many people in the world will tell you that there is no more Israel. That the reason why you don't have to keep it, that Israel is done away with. But here I'm proclaiming out to the wind that we are Israel. That the 12 tribes, mainly the tribe of Judah, is in America to this day. That we are that tribe, sent here on slave ships, as it tells in Deuteronomy 28:66. But let's see what the word says. We're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 31. And we're going to look at verse 33 and 34. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive them their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. So right here, the same way that we looked at the Father saying that he remembers every time that rainbow. If you look at that rainbow, you look upon it and the Father is looking upon it. He can see you down in heaven right where you at right now. Just like you on a cell phone, just like you Skyping. You being Skyped by the Most High. And he can look down this planet, and every time the rain comes, he looks upon that rainbow and he remembers that he won't destroy your ungrateful butt by water this time. That's what he remembers. But here, he says he will forgive their iniquity and remember our sins no more if we keep his commandments. And here it says that he made this covenant with the house of Israel. But this is Old Testament. This is old word. So there is no more Israel, they say. So people say they don't have to remember this no more. But this is Jeremiah chapter 31. Let's see what the New Testament says in this. Let's see if the New Testament speaks of Israel. If you look at the book of James, chapter 1, verse 1, the whole book is dedicated to the 12 tribes of Israel scattered to the four corners of the earth. Judah, if you see in Isaiah chapter 11, is one of those tribes scattered. We're here in America. So every time you pick up that book of James and you see that letter dedicating to the lost sheep of the house of Israel scattered, he's talking to you in this country right here. That's what that book is talking to. Paul, Romans chapter 11. He said that God forsake his people, that God cast away his people. He tells you God forbid. Ahayah forbid, I am forbid. He did not cast away us. He did not get rid of his people. Paul was a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. So the person they based their word off of, after the Most High was living, no doubt about it, there was a Hebrew Israelite in the world. And his name was Shaul or Paul. After Yeshua did the Feast of Weeks, was taken up on that cloud into the heavens, his brother James wrote a letter to Israelites, not into just Jerusalem, not into where we just call Africa, but he said scattered to the four winds of the corners of the earth. So everywhere. New Testament is telling you that Israel was still around and all over the world, because that's where the Father scattered them to. But to get even a more clear understanding, we're in Hebrews chapter 8, down at verse 10. And it reads, "For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my laws in their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God. They shall be to me a people, and they shall teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness and their sins and their iniquities. I will remember no more. In that he saith, a new covenant he hath made, the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxes old is ready to vanish away." So the new covenant, right here where you just read, was made with the house of Israel, with the house of Judah. It does not say the house of Christianity. It doesn't say with the Roman Catholic Church. He doesn't say with the First Baptist Presbyterian. It doesn't say with the Church of Christ. It doesn't say with the Monastery of Catholics. No. There's only one body. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. So just like we read in the old, we see it in the new. The same way we see the old waxes away and gets old. The new, the same thing, the same words, the same covenant. And it's still made with the same Israel. So if you're a stranger, you should be busting your butt to get close to Israel and be grafted in. If you're a lost sheep of the house of Israel, you should try to be your best to remember. Open up the book. Turn the pages. Read. And remember, you are the house of Israel. You are the house of Judah. So we're still going to look to get more understanding on this word. Because the Father left us all the knowledge that we need to have. So we're going to go to Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 3. And we know that the Father has made a covenant. And we look in the Old Testament. And we see that covenant that was made with Israel. But lo and behold, we look in the New Testament and see that covenant that was made with Israel. So, nothing new underneath the sun. And all those things we need to get. Let's get some understanding. Acts chapter 7, verse 38. It tells you that there ain't no new church. It's the same church. The same church that was at Mount Sinai, the congregation. And that congregation was called Israel. So the word lines up. But here we in Hebrews letter, chapter 3, verse 16, looking to get more understanding. And it reads, for some, when they had heard, did provoke, howbeit, not all that came out of Egypt by Moses, but with whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcass fell in the wilderness, and to whom sware that they should not enter into his rest, but to them that believed not? So we see that they could not enter in because unbelief. So we see people that died in the wilderness and could not get into the promised land. They couldn't get there because unbelief. But let's keep reading the word, because now we're at Hebrews 4 and we're going to get even more understanding. What unbelief did they not have? What unbelief stopped them from getting to the promised land? What unbelief made sure when they died, they stayed dead, and when they get resurrected, they go into the lake of fire? What unbelief was that? So we're going to read chapter 4, verse 1. Let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left us of entering into his rest, any you should seem to come short of. For unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. For we, which have believed, do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he spoke in a certain place of the seventh day of the wise, and God did rest from the seventh day from all his works. And in this place again, if thou shalt enter into my rest, seeing therefore it remaineth that some must enter therein, and they to whom it was first preached entered not in because of unbelief. Again, he limiteth a certain day, saying to David, today, after so long a time, as it is said today, if ye will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. For if Yeshua, for if Jesus, whatever tongue you want to speak, whatever name you calling on. Chapter 4, verse 8. For if Yeshua had given them rest, then would he not afterward have spoken of another day? Therefore remaineth thereof a rest to the people of God. So if you belong to the people of God, and you understand, as you've seen in Acts chapter 7, verse 38, that we are the same church that was in the wilderness, that we see here in the Hebrew letter, that don't fall to their unbelief the same way that they had unbelief, and they could not get into the promised land. And it goes here and it tells you the reason they had unbelief and what is the reasons why they could not keep the Sabbath day. They would not keep the Sabbath day. They hardened their hearts. I mean, if you listening to this, will you harden your heart? Will you not keep the Sabbath day? Because he tells you plainly, he never spoke of another day. So we go back to the beginning of what we started. Open up a book. Read. Remember. The Most High said he puts a sign up for you anytime it rains, that he remembers. He told you to be like him. And then he told you to remember the Sabbath day. He told you he made a covenant with Moses. He told you he made a covenant with Noah and all his boys. And that covenant still stands. Because every time you see a rainbow, you pray out loud. You hope it ain't another flood. You hope it ain't another tsunami. You hope you ain't get washed away. So you still holding on to that covenant. He tells you to remember his covenant. To keep his Sabbath day. To keep it Kodesh. To keep it sanctified. To keep it separated from everything else you do. That there is nothing more important in this world. So this is so many things we see that the Most High has given us. But we're not done. The word is sharper than any two-edged sword. And this message here is so you can get rid of all those false prophets. All those two-forked tongues. All those that tell you that there is no covenant no more with Israel. That there is no more Sabbath day. Shun them. Rebuke them. Cast them out and keep them far away from you. Because you don't want to end up where your Father's going to put you if you do not. We keep his Sabbath day. We are the children of the Most High. We understand on Mount Sinai, he spoke his word. He wrote his word down with his finger, the finger of Ahayah, the finger of God, the Lords of Lords, Kings of Kings. He wrote down his Sabbath day and his commandments. So here we go again. Remember, open up a book, you fool. Don't be ignorant. If you have a little faith, make it a great faith. For 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 12, remember his marvelous works that he hath done, his wonders and his judgments of his mouth. O ye seed of Israel, his servant, ye children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is the Lord our God. His judgments are all in the earth. Be ye mindful always of his covenant, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations, even of the covenant which he had made with Abraham, of his oath unto Isaac, and he hath confirmed the same to Jacob for a law, and to Israel for everlasting covenant. So we the house of Jacob, and we know the Torah is our law. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, the law. That's a law he made with our forefathers, Jacob, and to Israel for an everlasting covenant. So we can get our lot. We can get our inheritance. That we will not fall by the wayside for unbelief. That we won't die. Be set apart from the Most High in all his glory. So, I'm getting ready to end this. I wanted to say one more thing to put it into our understanding so we can understand. We're going to look at the book of Psalms, chapter 103, verses 17 and 18. But the loving kindness of the Lord is for everlasting to everlasting, and those who fear him and his righteousness to his children's children, to those who keep his covenant and remember his precepts and to do them. So hopefully, if you hear this message, you'll find yourself in that form of remembrance, that you'll be the love and kindness of the Lord from everlasting to everlasting, that you'll fear him, that's the beginning of all wisdom, and your children's children, and you'll keep his covenant, and you'll remember his precepts to do them. Remember his precepts to do them. And the last thing we're going to look at, so we can have a clear picture, is how long shall we remember these precepts? Is there a time frame? And I think there is. So we're going to look at that time frame of the Most High. Malachi chapter 4. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud ye, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And that day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But until you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go forth and grow up as cows to the stall. And ye shall be tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that shall do this, saith the Lord of hosts. Remember ye the law of Moses, my servants, which I command unto him in Horeb, for all of Israel, with the statutes and judgments. So, remember his precepts, remember his law until your death or until he comes back, whatever one comes first. Shalom and peace to the 12 tribes of Israel.